Ouija boards have been present since the late 1800s when spiritualism, aka communicating to the dead, was popular in the West. Ouija boards are basically a way to do that. They have the whole alphabet, numbers 1 through 9, yes and no in the corners, and the word goodbye runs along the bottom. Players sit around the board resting their fingertips on a teardrop-shaped planchette that moves over the board, spelling out words, answering questions. However, if you've ever used a Ouija board, you will probably have suspected that it was your sibling or friend who was moving the planchette, and not some mysterious ghost or spirit. Or it could be the ideomotor effect where a person's body unconsciously moves without them fully realizing it. In fact, this phenomena is known to reveal unconscious knowledge that people have, which might explain why some answers to questions can be so eerily correct. But what about the instances when people swear they're not moving it? After all, not all of the stories we'll talk about in this video can be explained by this effect. So without any more delay, let's get spooked by some of these creepy Ouija board stories. Number 1. The Haunted Computer. I was in my room one night after having spent the day playing with a Ouija board, but out of nowhere, my computer screen went from black to blue as I was getting ready for bed. It just turned on all by itself. Now I assume this might have been a glitch, or I might have not turned it off properly beforehand. So I got up and switched off the computer. But the computer rebooted itself once more. Nervous, I unplugged the computer entirely. And then as I got back in bed for a third time, the unpowered computer restarted again. Clearly it wasn't me who was continuously turning on the computer, either consciously or unconsciously. It's odd how it turned on even after unplugging it. What logical explanation could possibly explain this? Whatever the case was, I didn't want to know. That night, I buried the Ouija board in my garden. Number 2. The Doll Head. I had to learn the hard way what a Ouija board was when 2 of my family members introduced me to one when we were all children. My elder brother and cousin always loved messing with things like this, only this time they had returned home with a Ouija board. All of us decided to play, and to set the mood, we even turned out all the lights and instead lit a candle. I sat in the dark, nervously waiting with my beloved doll Kelly at my side. We started playing and asking questions, and before we knew it, the planchette started going in specific paths. No one seemed to be moving it either. It dragged itself across the board to the letter K, then it proceeded to E, and then L. It stopped for a moment, then rapidly circled back around for another L, before finally landing on Y, spelling out the name of my own doll, Kelly. Then, all of a sudden, there was a loud bang against the radiator, and everyone obviously freaked out and began screaming. When we turned on the lights, what we saw by the radiator was the severed head of my favorite doll, Kelly. Number 3. The College Morgue. This story comes from an incident that occurred during my freshman year of college. Me and my roommates used a Ouija board, and I had a terrifying encounter with some extremely bad spirits. You see, our dorm hall used to be a morgue, making it an ideal setting for rumors of hauntings and spirit sightings. But it was also the perfect setting for a prank with pals. We had no idea how serious it could even get. When we gathered around the board and began to ask it questions, the planchette began to move, and the spirits, or maybe one of my dorm mates, communicated to us that 83 demons would come after us. We shrugged it off and put the board back and went to sleep. But soon after that Ouija board round, the dorm really did become haunted. None of us could sleep because stuff was turning on and messing with us. So we called a priest to bless the room. It was all good afterward. Following this whole ordeal, we swore never to mess with a Ouija board ever again. Number 4. The New Friend. It all started when I began playing with Ouija boards when I was a child. I have continued to experience paranormal phenomena ever since. So, for context, my grandfather on my dad's side died before I was born. My dad and grandpa were estranged, and so, my dad never spoke of him. But one day, I began seeing and talking to a person named Michael. What I didn't know at the time was that Michael was my grandfather's name. Finally, my parents sat me down, showed me a picture of a man, and asked if I knew who it was. Of course, I told them that it was Michael, and that he was present with us at that moment. Number 5. The Watcher. I experienced this at about the age of 12 or 13 when spending the night at a friend's house. Together with my friend and his sister, we were all goofing around with the Ouija board. At first, we were only getting all kinds of gibberish, random words being spelled out. It was only for fun, anyway. And we weren't really scared of taking anything seriously. But then we got this message that said, "I can see you through the window." When we asked the board again, we got this message, "I can see you through his eyes." Oh, and I should mention that we were playing this in a basement, which only had one very small window. Outside this window, it was just the backyard and the edge of the driveway that were visible, and nothing else. And no one was there watching us. We asked the spirit more questions, and it said, "I'm under the car." So, being stupid and brave, all of us got up to check it out. With a flashlight in hand, my friend peered under the car, only to discover a huge black stray cat hissing at us. Instantly, we ran inside, freaking out. And at that exact moment, the power failed and all the lights in the house went out. A few minutes later, the power came back on. But we were already too freaked to sleep. We spent the whole night awake. Number 6. The Body in the Lake. This is a story from when I was a kid. My brother was there too. Our mom had pulled out a Ouija board and asked us if we wanted to play. Both of us, being curious little kids, naturally said yes. We set up the board and took our places around it. We started off by just messing around, moving the planchette on our own and spelling out funny words. Then our mom decided to get serious and use the board for real. The whole reason she'd even brought it today was to try and contact a spirit and ask about a friend of hers who had recently gone missing. It had been a month now and he had still not been found. Nobody knew where he was or where he even could have been. She first asked the board about who they were talking to. The planchette spelled out a name, which I'll just say was George because I don't remember the exact name. Turns out, George was the name of the friend who had gone missing. We asked the spirit if it was Mom's friend, and it said yes. My mom was pretty upset after this, but then asked the spirit where it was. The spirit spelled out some letters, which read, "In a lake." At that point, we had had enough and stopped the game and tried to shrug it all off. But only 2 weeks later, George's body was found from a nearby lake. He had been hit by something, maybe a car or a truck, and had fallen in and subsequently drowned. The lake was a bit isolated, so of course, nobody knew where he had gone.